Hello, bonjour, welcome to France 24. She's the foremost expert on chimpanzees and their best advocate for the past 50 years. Joining us now in the studio is Dr. Jane Goodall. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're here promoting a documentary about chimpanzees. What was your role? What did you do exactly, and how, it was with Disney Nature? How did that come about?
Well, it came about because I met the Disney Nature people. And I suppose, my name and chimps are synonymous, so they asked me if I would, occasionally look at pieces of film and look at the script and do some advising. I had to do almost nothing because the film team, British, they knew what they were doing. They'd done it before. And, I knew them all. And they showed me the script occasionally. The chimps were being studied by Christoph Bosch, and he'd been there for, 30, 40 years, something like that. What Disney really wanted me for was promotion. And so when the film opened in the US, I did so much promotion. And they said, well, because of that, we had the best opening we've ever had for any of our films. And the Jane Goodall Institute in the US benefited from that. We got a percentage of ticket sales.
Weren't you worried that this might become this Hollywood melodrama? I mean, how, this is your life cause. How did you make sure that they weren't going to make it into a, kind of a weepy, teary-eyed film?
Because I trusted the people I spoke with. Certainly the British team wouldn't have done anything like that. Christoph Bosch absolutely wouldn't have allowed it. And as they asked me to make comments, I thought, well, they'll probably listen to, at least slightly, to what I have to say. I wasn't worried at all. And I think to bring the chimpanzees to the big screen, particularly with a focus on children, this is going to benefit the chimpanzees and therefore my own institute, the Jane Goodall Institute. That's what I thought, and that's what happened.
Okay. So just for some who have not seen it or will discover it, it's about a young chimp whose name is Oscar, who's 3 years old and is separated from his community and is basically adopted by a grown male. Now, my question was, by bringing this film to the big screen, won't this kind of go counter to your research and to your work, which is it's going to make all these people want to come, tourists come and visit real life chimps?
Well, very few people get there. It's far away. It's not easy. We get some tourists at Gombe, but not too many. To get to these chimps in Côte d'Ivoire, it's even harder. I think very few people will go there. But, I think the amazing thing about this particular film, the plan was to follow the development of Oscar. He was one of two babies, and his mother was more, she was less skittish. To follow through 3 years, for the team to go back 3 times and follow his progress. Well, then during the second visit, his mother was killed. So they thought, well, this is the end of the film because, he was only just, not quite 3. And a chimpanzee that age on his own can't survive. So they expected him to die. And then he got adopted by not just any old adult male, but the alpha male, the top-ranking male. Disney couldn't have planned a script like that. Nobody could. It's almost unheard of. It's happened once before that I know of in 50 years from all the different chimp studies.
Okay, so a magical Disney moment. Now, this is well said. You have been studying chimps for 50 years, as you said, since 1960.
Yep.
Tell us, we kind of see it in the movie, but tell us what, your research really kind of broke through. How so? And many people say you changed the definition of man. Tell us why.
Well, first of all, when I first began talking about the chimpanzees, I was talking about their personalities and I was talking about, the mind and how they had the ability to think. And I was talking about their emotions. And I was told that was all absolutely no-no. But the breakthrough came after about 4 months when I saw a chimpanzee pick a piece of grass and use it to fish termites from a nest, and also pick a leafy twig and strip off the leaves. It was thought at that time that humans, and only humans, used and made tools. We were known as man the tool maker. And so Louis Leakey, my mentor, said, now we have to redefine man, redefine tool, or accept chimps as humans.
And there we have it. Now, another thing that was unlike other scientists is you gave names to the chimps that you studied. I saw Fifi, I saw Goliath, and other such names. What made you give them names instead of giving them numbers?
Well, first of all, you have to realize that when I went out to Africa, my goal was to live with animals and write books about them. I had no dream of anything as exotic as a chimpanzee. I had no degree. I'd left school at 18, and that was it. And it was Louis Leakey who asked me if I'd go and try and study the chimpanzees, because he needed it for his research into early man. And I wouldn't have dreamt of, I couldn't have thought of giving an animal a number. I mean, why would you? And so, of course, I gave them names. Anyway, I wouldn't have remembered the numbers. You remember Flo and Fifi. I bet you wouldn't have remembered 16 and 29.
No, you're right. Now, is it true that you named one of the chimps recently Goodall?
I did name a chimp Goodall.
And why?
Because we realized that in order to protect the chimpanzees, who are in danger of extinction in many places, it's necessary to work with the local people who are often living in dire poverty, bring them out of poverty, which we do with our Take Care program, and then they can become our partners. And so they are using Google Android cell phones and iPads to monitor the forests, which they're now protecting and restoring. And so Goodall seemed a pretty good name for a little chimp, especially as it was part of the G family.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a Goodall chimp. Now, so this proximity, as you say, is a better way to study them. As you know, you were a young British woman in the jungle. Some critics say, though, that this proximity is counterproductive. What do you have to say about that?
Well, when I was first there, the chimps were running away as soon as they saw me. I was learning nothing. It wasn't until they came to trust me and let me get reasonably close that I could begin to learn about them. We now know that because biologically they're so like us, that they can catch or be given all known human contagious diseases. So we try to keep a bit further away, like 7 meters, because of this danger of disease transmission.
And I read that the film crew had to keep masks and dressed in a certain way so that the chimps would know that they weren't they weren't poachers. Yeah. Speaking of which, you're talking about disease. I just mentioned poaching. You've been out in the field for many, many years. How have the threats changed? Have the threats changed? We've had wars. What are the current threats to the chimpanzees?
The current threats vary in different parts of Africa. Around us, it's habitat destruction, no question. More people than the land can support, clearing the last trees, desperate to grow food. That's why if we help them to use a small piece of land to grow 4 times more food without using chemicals, by the way, then, this helps them to have better lives. Where these chimpanzees in this film are, in Central Africa, it's bushmeat trade. That's the commercial hunting of wild animals for food, and a little bit still poaching, killing mothers for the pet trade in the Middle East, for example. Deforestation, population growth. And so your idea, you're traveling 300 days a year, yes, raising awareness. Are people, do you find that your cause is gaining traction? Because, Yeah, we definitely, there's a greater awareness. The Jane Goodall Institute, there are 28 of them. But even more significant, our youth program, Roots and Shoots, which is about empowering young people, first of all, to learn about the environment, and then to choose their own projects to make the world a better place, to help people, animals, and the environment. And that's in 132 countries. And this is spreading awareness all the time about not just chimpanzees in Africa, but all the other threats to our planet right now. And I mean, isn't it weird that the biggest difference between us and chimpanzees is the development of our intellect, and yet this most intellectual creature that's ever walked on the planet is destroying its only home? It's crazy. There's a disconnect between this brain and the human heart.
Absolutely. And I read that you said that you found that the jungle gave you, it was timeless. How so? Why is it timeless? Why is the jungle timeless?
Because when you're out there in these rainforests, you're, for the moment, not thinking about all the pressures of modern life and all the problems that we humans inflict on the planet. It's like stepping back for hundreds of years ago, and nothing's changed, and you feel the interconnectedness of life. And that's what I'm so passionate to preserve. It's so important. It's so good for our spiritual development. It doesn't have to be the rainforest. It can be a forest around France. It can be a wetland. It can be some beautiful habitat that we haven't yet destroyed, and we have to save some of it for our future children.
She said it best. Thank you. That was Dr. Jane Goodall. Merci, and stay tuned to France 24.